Welcome to the Maritime Vision podcast. I'm your host, Paul Wioli. In each episode, we bring you exclusive interviews with maritime professionals, industry experts, and students. Our guests come from different backgrounds, including shipping, yachting, offshore, supply chain, and more. Our goal is to give you all the knowledge you need to succeed in the maritime industry.
Hello everyone, welcome back to a new podcast episode. And today we are joined by Gennaro Silvestri. He is a ship technical superintendent. Can you introduce yourself, please?
Yes, as you say, my name is Gennaro. I am a ship superintendent. I am currently working for a large international company here based in the Netherlands, which is mainly specialized for dredging project and as well wind farm installation.
And can you tell us a little bit why did you join the maritime industry?
Well, I have to say I was attracted from the sea and from the ship itself since I was quite young, kids, so I decided to go for the nautical school, and after that, then I was continuing for my HBO to the Maritime Academy. And I was also, and despite the sacrifice of traveling, be away from home and the love, I was actually noticing that more I was in the field and the more I was enjoying my work, despite all the sacrifice. And I'm also kind of curious person. So the more I was learning and the more I wanted to know. And that's how I end up in this field, let's say, and this position also.
Okay. Interesting. Can you give us an overview what is a superintendent?
Well, the ship superintendent, you can find many ways of explaining the position, but mainly you are the owner representative on duty for one unit or more than one unit, one ship or more than one ship. And and in this position, you have to overview a little bit everything related to the vessel itself, in the benefit of the owner, but also following the standard and the requirement that are in place for the maritime industry.
Okay, so it's a more like technical job. Huh? It's more than operation.
It is, it can be considered like a technical job. It is mainly technical, but as well, you are also in charge a lot for the financial part of the vessel. And as I say, you need to be a little bit flexible also, because you find yourself sometime working with a different project where you have to have a good understanding of the contract terms and condition. It is mainly technical, but there are a lot of shapes around.
Okay, interesting. Anyway, today we're going to deep more into the technical side, so the technical management, but still, I want to ask you, do we have different specialties for a superintendent, for example, specialized in tanker ships, how it works?
As I say, this depends a little bit of your background mainly. However, maritime background and sailing, you can always adapt yourself in the situation, which I think it is my case, it's true, but I believe, however, I cannot see myself to do this job without that kind of background. Then it is true. Then when you change the field eventually, or where you enter in the new, let's say, project, you need to be also a little bit aware of what you are facing to, because according with what kind of vessel you are taking care, there are different priority. If you are taking care of like a wind farm installation, then most probably you will have to deal with a lot of people, big project. If you are taking care of like a cruise vessel, for example, then time frame stopping, and it's like it's a must, and you need to keep it because otherwise you may have a lot of problems.
Okay, quite interesting. I know that maintenance is a big part of your job, like taking care of the maintenance of the ship. Can you explain the different types of maintenance we have? Like for example, like I have a car, I know that I have this maintenance to do, like it's quite popular. What about the ship?
Let's say then every company those days has like a PMS, Plan Maintenance System, in place, because it's one requirement for the ISM code, the International Safety Management Code, and this system actually help you in your way through. The maintenance you can basically divide in two different groups, I believe. One is like the scheduled maintenance, which are normally which are divided on time frame or on the running hours. And this time frame and running hours, which are included in this plan and maintenance system, are actually dictated from the manufacturer, which anyway are following the class society regulation, the maritime standard regulation, and so on. And then there are the other group of maintenance, which are the unexpected maintenance, which are normally related to failures. So it's something then, then you can eventually prevent, but you cannot really get rid of it. Avoid it, yeah.
Okay, makes sense. If a company operates the same ship as you, is each company has the same maintenance plan, or it can change depending?
Well, there are different software, which the basic functionality is the same for all of them. Anyway, some company decided because of experience or because they had like close contact with a certain manufacturer, then for example, instead than following what the manual says, they wanna adopt some restricted kind of plan. So instead of doing every 1,000 hours, I decided I want to do every 500. Either because I have experience, then after 500 I start to have some trouble, or either because the manufacturer say, wow, we say 1,000, but maybe around 500 is better. So the time frame are mainly in the manual, and the manufacturer are obliged to include this time frame in the manual for class society, insurance, and so on. But as I say, companies sometimes can change according with the software that they have, but also according with their internal decision, let's say. But only more restricted. Normally, there are never cases where the company say, okay, let's extend this, unless we are talking about, like, for example, I don't know, inspection, where you can play a little bit your game according with what kind of project you are facing. Maybe you finish 2 weeks later, you say, okay, let's do 2 weeks later this one. But yeah, never like big, really.
It's quite interesting. For example, if we take a windows of 1 year, what are the biggest maintenance operations?
Well, in 1 year time, most of the equipment I would expect at least then you have some run-out test, like you test condition, monitoring the condition. Some of the equipment you either change minor part, seal, gasket. As I say, this is in time frame of 1 year. Biggest normally equipment such like an engine or so, you work mainly with the running hours. But yeah, I will expect at least in 1 year time, then you will do like inspection. And sometimes some of inspection is also like a parts inspection. So you open your equipment to look into it. Yeah.
Don't you need to change oil for the main engine?
For the main engine, yeah, the changes of the oil is mainly to the running hours. In 1 year time, this occurs more often than once per year. Obviously, for the engine, we are mainly talking about like quite big engine for ships normally. So the amount of oil then are involved, it's quite large. So normally you don't do like big replacement like a car. You drain your oil and then you put new oil and that's it. But normally there you monitoring the oil test, the oil analysis, and then according with oil analysis you take corrective action. If there is too much condense and water can be too high in your oil, or if there is like an iron part and maybe you have some bearing which are there to have some friction or so. So looking at that, you know how much oil you need to change, and also it can lead you to what maintenance and what inspection you need to do.
Okay, very interesting. Wow. So it means that for in the biggest ships you don't change oil. It's like a pool, basically you don't change the water because you have so many of them, but you add some chlor. But for a ship, do you have some special treatment on the oil? Or?
On the oil, basically, yes. The more is the amount, the more treatment you have. Normally, on every vessel, you will always have filters, and filters for the oil and for the fuel also can be actually divided in like static filter and centrifugal filter. Okay. Centrifugal filter are also called the separator, yeah, and they're working basically with the viscosity concept. So the filter is spinning very fast, and this spinning actually create the division between the water, which we don't want in our oil, because water creates corrosion and also reduce the lubrication effect. And there are static filter which are routine mesh or different measurement, and some of these are also equipped with magnet inside in order to trap some small iron parts.
Okay. On those filters, we need to change them every 6 months, year, or?
Yeah, some of these filters are working with such called differential pressure alarm, which is nothing else than the difference between the inlet pressure and the outlet pressure, which trigger one kind of sensor, which show you then the filter is like partially dirty, completely dirty, and we change like this. Instead, for non-static, let's say, for the purifier, for non-static filter, we actually work on running hours normally, unless we receive some alarm which trigger. Yeah.
Did you experience with your car some emergency?
Well, we had a lot in this perspective. What chemistry is the same more or less in the oil. It's more difficult, but for example, if we are talking about filter for fuel, sometimes it happened and you are relocate geographically your vessel from point A to point B, and you are mixing two type of fuel, which can create some strange effect and be a little bit more muddy or less solid. So you have all type of different failure you can expect. Yeah.
Interesting. Wow. Okay. Interesting. In terms of, for example, sometimes the ship can be very far away, in South America, for example. How are you managing if you have an emergency? Because you don't know any supplier there, or how it works?
Well, normally, I have to say, most of the supplier, at least the large one, they work with the different offices around the world. However, there are possibilities then you will have to fly service engineer or parts also if it's required. There are obviously some areas which are, if you are working around USA, well, 99% you will find something. If you are working around some Caribbean island or something like this, less opportunity, so you put that. But normally these things are also studying in the large picture before you accept the project. Because when you accept the project, if something is going to happen, if I will need dry dock, if I will need some emergency, what port is the closest one where I can relocate my vessel. So you normally know in advance, you prepare yourself. But it's definitely there, the chance of...
Quite interesting. We will come back about procurement because I think it's a very interesting topic. Do you want to add something about technical management and maintenance itself?
About the maintenance, as I say, if you have in plan and all the company has the PMS, you are more or less covered. You just need to make sure that you have this culture on board of following it or give the right importance to it, because what is stated in there is coming from experience, is coming from research, so it is very important. What I think is also quite important is to rely a little bit on the experience of the people on board or yourself. Sometimes you visit the vessel and then from experience you can hear some noise, or you can see some strange functionality. And when you are working with maintenance, especially in the position of a technical superintendent, where you are when you are also on duty for the budget itself of the vessel, you need to have a little bit a large view. So sometimes you can actually save money by deciding to anticipate one maintenance because you see something strange. And in that moment, seems to you like you are spending unnecessary money, but in the long term, you are actually saving money. You can prevent breakdown or even such a domino effect, one small part is broken and then all parts, all equipment is broken, all the related parts are getting damaged.
The snowball effect.
Yeah.
About the age of the vessel, I think, because for example, if we take your car, I know that older is my car, highest is the number of maintenance I need to do. Is it the same for a vessel?
It is a little bit different in this perspective. Normally, if you are taking good care of your equipment, you can still keep the same running hours, time frame. However, it's different discussion when we are talking about hull, like vessel hull. Eventually, with the age of the vessel, the inspection are becoming a little bit more detailed. But in terms of maintenance, like the large part of the maintenance, and does not change too much. Okay. I say.
Quite clear. I think we have a nice overview of maintenance. Let's talk about Dockyard. I mean, what are your role during this process in the lifetime of a ship, and how do you coordinate everything?
Well, Dockyard, this is also something then change a little bit company to company. From my experience, the Dockyard, normally the preparation, it is for the superintendent, obviously with the support of the crew. Normally about a year in advance, you start to prepare something which is you call scope of work. In this scope of work, you include all the work order, which are all the routine major maintenance which are coming up, or inspection which are coming up, like could be propeller, rudder, or so on, and also all the needed work. Like for example, you have a certain equipment then is not working well, and you know then you can reach the dry dock, so you will postpone to dry dock. However, when you prepare for this major repair, you started, as I say, far in advance, because you need to make sure first dock availability, then you need to create a budget, because obviously your business unit of your company wants to know, okay, how much we're going to invest in this, how much we're going to spend. And as well, you need to prepare in advance spare part. You need to make sure that no spare part will be there. Eventually, the support of the third party, because not all the yard, not all the dock can actually provide you every service. There are biggest one, more experienced one, less experienced one. So you more or less play around this. It's depending from manufacturer, but if you start in advance, you are making sure then everything is well prepared.
Okay, quite interesting. So it's like are you like working more like as a project manager? I mean, when you are working on this Dockyard operations?
Yeah, when you are working in this kind of project, which is like the measure you can get, you are working in very flexible. You are working technically, like you have to be ready and know what about that maintenance, how has to be performed, but also which one are the requirements for the maintenance. You are, for example, changing the pump. There is like a new update for that pump. There is a new requirement from class society or from maritime industry or maritime law about that equipment. And in the same time, you are dealing with a lot of people. Normally you will need support from the crew of the vessel. And what I used to do, or what I think is a good practice, is like to create a tab then you have on board all the time, where everybody can access to, and eventually you can assign, like for every job, one person then will be following more close, let's say, and then you can get feedback from all this person. And it's kind of cooperation at the end of the day. So, and you take decision together, and you work for the benefit of the vessel itself and the company.
Can you explain why we need Dockyard on board the ship? Or you told us a little bit, but is it again about this time windows? Is it every 3 years? Or
okay, the regulations say then every 5 years, at least you have to dock your vessel twice. Okay, and in the meanwhile, then has to be carried out survey of the vessel, which are referred. So by law, you are already forced to stop your vessel, and you will have to do it. Obviously, there are also kind of inspection which are coming up, then require the vessel to be dry, because I cannot see the condition of my propeller, not propeller shaft, but propeller itself, if I don't get my vessel dry. I cannot see the condition of my bottom hull if I don't get my vessel dry, or my rudder if I don't get the vessel dry. And so there are specific jobs that you can carry out only in this condition. And there are also specific requirements by class in time frame of inspection, which required you to do inspection of certain stuff like propeller in this time frame. So you will have to comply and to make it so.
Okay. And sometimes is it possible to have urgent like Dockyard is not really okay?
Yes, urgent Dockyard, it is possible. Yeah, it is not easy. You have to keep in mind that you are not prepared, so it is difficult to handle. There are a lot of yards which can welcome you in the short notice. However, the largest yard, normally I can tell you that they are busy 360 days per year, at least. So you will, if you are in the area where there are more than one, it is better. If you are in the certain area, would be maybe you have to sail a little bit to it.
Okay. How many time frame you need to contact them before?
The earliest is better for them. Like the earliest is better for you, and the earliest is better for them. So there is not like a time frame, but I would say at least 6 months in advance is good one. Better 1 year.
Better 1 year. Okay, well, yeah. So it's again, it's plan of the maintenance plan, PMS.
Exactly.
Okay, testing. Okay, test. So we cover this topic, which is quite interesting. Let's talk now about procurement, because I know it's a big part of your job. Is it like how many percentage of procurement you spend?
Yeah, well, normally especially if the companies are large, you have like a procurement department, which are dealing with or financial department or both, which are dealing with invoices and requisition. However, you will have to overview this. You will have to create whatever is necessary requisition for something which is unplanned, and you have to looking over the budget of the vessel. So in this perspective, it's like the crew can make an order, but you have to approve the order. So you need to work a little bit both way, like in the interest of the company as economically as possible, but you also have to be good support for the vessel and the crew. And the vessel has to be operational and work in the safe condition. So that's the main topic which you have to take care and overview. And the procurement works a little bit like this. Normally, with the company, in terms of yearly budget, you divide cost for spare part and cost for service. Sometimes you also divide the cost for repair, but this is again a little bit up to the company and what financial way they adopt. How they want to control the cost.
Of course, what your job is more about the spare part itself, or as well the consumable. So
no, my job is like it's definitely the spare part. Okay. Normally with a large company, you have like a manufacturer which are cooperating all the time. Yeah. So we have in our perspective a certain manufacturer for certain parts which we contact the first. Sometimes can happen then because of delivery time which are too long, or unavailability of the part, then you have to relate to a different manufacturer. However, this is up to you and your experience of dealing with it to understand if another manufacturer can help you and is trustworthy. In our job, it's also very important sometimes to visit this company, so you can meet people and you can see the way they work, and this is a good guideline for you.
Okay, great. Okay, interesting because.
Yeah, I think I work in a procurement department as an internship. I think you have like the logistics coordinator. They're taking care of the procurement itself, but you still need approval from the superintendent. If we want to order something, first you need to say, okay, it's good because you have this vessel budget you need to take into account. So we will come back about it later. But just to be focused on procurement, what about the critical spare parts you need on board the ship?
Yeah, the critical spare parts are again familiarized and categorized in the different way from company to company. However, they are normally related to the equipment which are vital, let's say, and they are sometimes they are also categorized for the delivery time. There are certain parts sometimes it takes 3 months to be delivered, so you definitely want to have in stock some of this part, and that and mainly the vital equipment which you need to have always functionality like engine and so on. So you won't have part available. Then if you face some failure, you can.
What are the most common one you order?
Well, definitely engine part, I would say. Those days is also quite topic environmental. Okay. Like you cannot really sail around if you are not complying with environmental rules. So some of the environmental parts, such as treatment for bilge, ballast water, are becoming now critical because you want to have there always available to be able to don't stop. And and then consumable is also quite important, and also part with the like eyewear, like if we have certain part then worn out faster, you know already, and you want to have available. And also what is very important, sometimes you have part and you cannot predict how long they can they can work. So that is also, but I say they are categorized in a different way, and every company has their own way of
But I know it's a big challenge. I talked to the superintendent. He told me that it's a big challenge in your job because procurement is becoming very complicated with this shortage of everything, of spare parts. Is it true, or depending, of course, the country, the type of vessel?
Well, the procurement phase, it is complicated those days because in the maritime industry, we always have a feeling that simply there is too much work and not enough people. So if you talk with every company, we don't have enough people and we are looking for people. And this is also affecting the procurement itself, because obviously you need person to fabricate spare part and logistic to supply you the spare part. And that's why sometimes you create a partnership with some supplier, which they will never say around, but eventually they will kind of prioritize your order instead of some other order. But the best is like to keep in mind all this information based on your experience, delivery time, availability of supplier, availability of another option as a supplier. If we don't have option A, I can use option B. And then around that, you can create your own way of working and your own way of facing this problem.
Okay, interesting. And to come back with this issue, for example, your vessel is in very far away, and you don't have any supplier or freight forwarder very close by. How are you managing? It's like sometimes you need to take a flight ticket and just go on the spot to figure out where can I find some suppliers. So,
well, sometimes you can rely on port agent. Okay. A lot of times, like port agent are basically person in loco which are cooperating with you. But knowing the geographical area, they also know if they can get some supplier. So they have some trustworthy supplier. If the area is really remote, let's say, there is possibility then you can fly parts over. The logistic, actually, it is quite important. Those days, big deals is also to deal with the custom. So there are areas where it's more easy to import part, area then takes a little bit longer. So that is also what you have to keep in mind when you accept a project and when you know your vessel is working in such an area.
Okay, quite interesting. Yeah, sure. So I think procurement will cover quite. You give us like a big overview, which is good. Let's talk about vessel budget. So the finance aspect of your job, how it works actually.
The vessel budget, it works. Yeah, it is not complicated, but normally you have a target. Yeah, and the target are based of previous years most of the time, and there are some years where your target is a bit lower, some years where your target is higher, which is obviously depend also on measure, repair, dry dock, and so on. Like doing the interest of the owner, but making sure also that the vessel is working in safe condition, you need to be quite judging on this. So sometimes the crew can order something, and you can, and you know, for example, then this is easy to reach eventually in the short term, so you can eventually try to cut some order on part, and you can get faster, or for example, order more because of the delivery time, and then next year you order less. So you play a little bit with this card, let's say. But normally you try to respect your target, and a lot is also coming from experience, to be honest, because the more is your experience, the more you can better organize.
Control your cost.
Cost, and you can better spread, and you can better save. So yeah.
Do you have 100% control of this cost, or sometimes your colleague can order something you only can have big impact on the budget at the end?
Well, normally most of the company now work on the 4 eyes principle. So normally there are 2 person, like the person then raise the order. Normally is different than the person then accept the order, especially for spare part. If you are talking about order for service and only manpower, is different eventually. But for spare part, normally you either have like a senior superintendent sometime, or some vessel, even some company, even the fleet manager itself approve some of the cost. And normally it's never the person that raised the order, the one and accept the order. So it works more or less like this for most of the company, I believe.
Okay, that's interesting. So can you explain a little the process? For example, the master call you, say I need this spare part, then how it works?
Yeah, it is again works through the PMS, the Plan Maintenance System. The PMS, it is good for overdue your maintenance, but it's also good to keep trace of your spare part. Normally they are categorized and there are folder, and every parts is related, every equipment has their own subfolder which include the spare part. And normally in this spare part you can see how many you have available, what is the cost of it, technical specification, and all this information. The order itself, normally for parts that are needed on board, comes from the vessel itself. So the vessel has possibility inside this software to raise a requisition, and the requisition will come for your approval, and you will approve. Once it's approved for you, the purchasing department will start to approach, or yourself, you start to approach supplier for the order.
So sometimes in big companies, you have the logistics department taking care as well to support you with this procurement on the ordering spare parts, because they know the best supplier, but they can negotiate the price, or you don't have to lose time with this part, or for you do everything directly.
Well, if you are working in the company that is for a long time in the business, you are working more or less directly, because they already have the good link with the good supplier, and they already know each other. So and the supplier itself, they already, most of the time, sometimes they even know better than you what to supply you in that case. So it's
in terms of safety and compliance, I know it's a big part of your job. I think we're very high pressure as well, because it's very important. What are the safety process we have, of course, in the big picture on board the ship in your daily job?
Well, the safety process on board, it's a topic, I would say. You always have to make sure then your vessel is operating safely for the equipment, but especially also for the people then working, for your crew. So there are various aspects, but everything starting from like building a step or a door to overall one engine is actually there is some safety procedural standard behind that, from the simple job to the most difficult job. In this particular scenario, I believe SOLAS helps a lot. Everything is covered by, as I say, from the little things to the measure to the biggest equipment. As well, working hours is related to safety, so you have to make sure also that your crew does not overtime too much. So it's basically, it's everything about safety. You can spread in all different way, like maintenance.
True. What about ISM? Is it a big thing that I know?
Yeah, it's International Safety Management Code. Yeah, and basically give you like what are the requirements and the guideline to have your vessel working according with the rules and regulation. ISM, and as I say, is part of the SOLAS, and everything is part of the IMO. So there are all these authority where you need to be familiar with and follow up for updated and new requirement in order to make sure that you work safely. And that's the main way of see it. Yeah, you have to sometimes put also the safety above the operation itself. There are sometimes maintenance then you would like to do it in 1 hour because you want to restore operation of the vessel, but you know then you will take too many then you will take too many risks in that perspective. So as I say, you need to take aware care of that.
Okay, interesting. But I mean, this guideline, how it works, because if I am a superintendent, the guideline say you need to have, for example, I don't know, to have this number of life jacket on board the ship. So as a superintendent, you of course need to follow these rules. Can you adapt it, or you need to follow it like completely 100%?
Well, with the safety, I would say then whatever regulation is in place is never enough. So normally also we have something in place which are called risk assessment. Okay, so we have standard procedure, which are the company procedure in order to do maintenance or or how much equipment you need to have on board, how many different what type of equipment you have on board, and so on. But then on top of this, we have something that is called risk assessment or permit of work, for example, that are all related to safety. The permit of work, for example, they are kind of checklists which guide yourself through a couple of checks before you start the maintenance itself to make sure that you don't forget anything. Risk assessment instead are some procedure where you actually try to predict and calculate the risk of what you are doing. Normally there is like a tab that goes from 1 to 5, and normally if the risk of your job is very high, you either try to mitigate and lower the risk, or eventually you cancel the maintenance.
Okay. Okay. So I think what about the control itself? Because for example, someone needs to control if you are respecting all these rules in terms of safety. How it works? Who is responsible for it? Like surveyor?
Yeah, there are many surveyors. The ship are normally work with the flag. So the flag have their own surveyor. The ship are working with the insurance company. The insurance company has their own surveyor. But also, wherever you are in the world, Port State Control can come on board anytime, and they can check your standard. Okay. And so there are actually also some kind of blacklist when vessel does not pass Port State in several occasions, let's say. And you don't want to be in that, definitely, sure. Because because the client itself, before come to you, they take care about this aspect. Obviously, they don't want impact in terms of economical impact, but also in terms of having their name behind some bad.
Of course,
yeah.
And so that's a big factor. On the terms of surveyor collaboration on relationship, or do you know some surveyor that you can call? Or it's like you need every time to have a new one. Or it works this as a superintendent, because I think you are calling them on a daily basis.
Yeah, not on a daily basis, but very often through the months or through the year. Normally, they are very busy also as well. As I say, like everything regarding maritime industry, there's always shortage of people. But normally you relate to a coordinator, and coordinator can assign you the surveyor. Normally every surveyor company, you relate to them, you explain what kind of service you will need from them, and then they will assign the person that is available. It is happen, or it can happen that you are cooperating on working a couple of times with the same surveyor sometime. Yeah, it is possible sometimes you can check his availability straight away, but the formal way of doing is to actually contact their coordinator. Okay.
And do we have so you are surveyor for safety, and only for safety, or we have for different?
Well, normally class surveyor cover everything related to the vessel. So safety and also operational maintenance. Obviously, the class itself issue to you certificate, and this certificate has to be renewed. So if some of them can be renewed with witness of the surveyor. Some other few without, but with evidence. But yeah, you are constantly working with them, and as well there is a proper guideline that you have to follow, window, time frame, then you have to respect. Okay. So yeah, it's a two-way work.
That's quite interesting.
I want to ask you last question. What kind of anecdotes you want to share? You had during your career as a superintendent? A funny story, can be sad story.
Oh, well, that's a difficult question. Yeah, I faced a lot in my career. Yeah, I will not know what to pick up, but yeah, maybe I can tell you that sometime we had to go back. One time I was on the vessel and we had to go back in the berth because we had entrance of seawater inside from our shaft propeller, which was not sealing good anymore. But yeah, some other times you're dealing with the engine stopping in the middle of the sea, and you also have to find solution for that. Yeah, there are a lot. It is part of your work. I think you have to keep in mind that in this position, as technical superintendent, you have to know that you will never see, or eventually you will never be prepared as much is required. Okay. There is always space for improvement. There is always space for learn. And in some way, I think then you should also kind of enjoy that. Okay. Because in that moment can look to you like it's very tough and is stressful, but looking back, you earn a lot of experience. And this experience will make you work better, faster, and in a more proactive way your next episode.
Thank you for this insight. Of course, it was very insightful. You will help a lot of people who want to work as superintendent in ship management and technical management. So thank you for that. And of course, I wish you all the best.
Yeah, thank you to you for having me here. And I hope it was helpful for everybody.
Bye-bye.
Thank you for listening and watching this episode. We are looking forward to bring you more insights from maritime professionals, experts, and students. Do not hesitate to follow the podcast on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and YouTube. Your support means a lot to us and helps us to bring you more content.